American Football Stories is brought to you by Coach Paint. Coach Paint is a great tool that allows us to add graphics to player highlight clips similar to the graphics you see on TV. Coach Paint offers the ability to clearly tellustrate video while increasing retention of information in a shorter amount of time. Up your game with Coach Paint today.
What time is it? Game time! It's gonna be special. They gonna talk about this forever.
Welcome to American Football Stories.
Puts his head down, crashes and spins, and dives. Touchdown!
Bringing together the many perspectives that make up college football in the NFL.
Football is one of the greatest sports ever invented.
From players and coaches.
Believe, baby, believe, baby.
Hey, we playing to win right here, fellas.
To the front office and scouts.
The public is finally beginning to catch up, but they don't even know half the truth.
Us against the world, let's get it.
Your hosts, Robert Parker and Nick Knudsen, bring you American Football Stories.
Welcome to the American Football Stories podcast brought to you by Coach Paint. My name is Nick Knudsen. My co-host is Robert Parker. Today is December 2nd, 2020, and we'll pick select college football games at Week 13 in the NFL. Rob, we always start with the canceled games up first, just to acknowledge what's going on. You got a couple Big Ten games canceled this week: Northwestern and Minnesota, and then Maryland at Michigan, all canceled. Southern Miss at UTEP, Kent State at Miami of Ohio, also canceled. Big news out of the Big Ten, though, with this Michigan game. A little controversy on the selection show yesterday. Kirk Herbstreit and Dave Pollock even doubled down on this, where they basically went out and said Michigan's going to wave the white flag and not play Ohio State. And they're worried about that because it'll one more game off the schedule will keep the Buckeyes out of the Big Ten title game and likely out of the playoff. I've also heard some rumblings where they might adjust the rule for Ohio State to get into the Big Ten title game because it'd be a little silly for them not to at this point. But rules are rules, right? You set your game, you set your schedule. People know what it is. I think that's a dumb rule personally, but the Michigan cancellation is getting that attention because of what's around the corner with Ohio State. But Maryland has yet another game canceled. Minnesota, yet another game. I heard there's up to 47 cases on that Minnesota team. I think we're at a point we talked about in the last episode, but this is just bad planning biting you in the ass.
Yeah, I tell you what, just going back to Kirk Herbstreit, he actually, he did double down and he came out and apologized in regards to.
Did apologize.
Yeah. So I just want to put that out there for Kirk. We know sometimes he can be an Ohio State homer. But yeah, I think it was great for him to come out and apologize. But just like you said, Nick, I think, this can be something major moving forward in regards to the Big Ten getting a team in the college football playoffs. Actually, the game that we're going to talk about, later in this episode, Ohio State this weekend, it's really on the edge of things. It might not get played or it might get played, but for certain, Ryan Day won't be on the sideline. So, it's a lot of things going on with this Ohio State program and just the Big Ten in general. And I think that's one thing we harped on, throughout our episodes of, just the protocols that the Big Ten set in place before they kind of kicked off their season. So I really think it's just like you said, it's coming back to bite them in the butt.
That's why I'm harping on it so much with the Big Ten, because it was just so obvious. And we called it out from the beginning. I mean, we're fans of making the effort. We don't criticize anyone for making the effort. And if you have to cancel a game, you have to cancel a game. But you got it. This is a season where you need to plan some buffer time in. And it just seemed like a half-hearted effort from the beginning. And now what's really irritating me is that you got a team with Ohio State. Is there any doubt in your mind that Ohio State is a top 4 team in the country right now?
Honestly, you have to look at the sample size. I don't put them in the top 4 if you ask me.
Forget the resume. Just from what you've seen from the Buckeyes on the field, Justin Fields, number 2 pick in the draft, very likely coming up. Is there any doubt that they're one of the 4 best teams in America?
On paper is no doubt.
Right.
On paper is no doubt. But, I think this year's a little bit different And I think the college football playoff committee is kind of like using different variables, just
Sure.
kind of make it an even playing field. But just like you said, on paper, Ohio State is definitely a top 4 team in the nation.
And it says something where whereas you look in the Pac-12, USC this week fell 2 spots. They fell from 18 to 20th, and they're 3-0 because they had a canceled game. Ohio State has a canceled game. They stay in the top 4. So it really says something about the respect they have for the Pac-12 versus the Big Ten. I mean, I think the Big Ten and Pac-12 have had similar approaches to this because I think the Pac-12 virtually has just shadowed the Big Ten and followed what they've done. And I think you're looking at bad policy coming back to bite the conference here. And I worry that Ohio State's going to get left out because of it. And it's a bummer because we should see Justin Fields get a shot at Alabama, or Justin Fields in that offense. I know the defense is struggling at times, but they still got some good players on that defense. We should see this Buckeye team get a shot at Alabama and Clemson. And I'm just worried that it might not happen at this point, but it's like you like to say, Rob, we shall see. So we got some ball to play still, and things could change in a heartbeat. So let's get on with this week. Thursday, December 3rd, Louisiana Tech at North Texas. Air Force goes to Utah State. Cut to Friday. Louisiana, Appalachian State. That's been the Sun Belt title game the last 2 years. That's been a good matchup. So that could be a good one Friday night at 8:30 on ESPN. Boise State goes to UNLV, 9:30 CBS Sports Network, playing that in Vegas. December 5th at noon on ABC, the number 4 Ohio State Buckeyes, who we were just discussing, are 23.5-point favorite, minus 3,500 on the money line. Over under is at 59.5. Look, Rob, I think in any other given moment, this minus 23.5 is a no-brainer, but we don't know what kind of roster Ohio State's going to go up there with. I mean, you could be looking at a severely depleted Ohio State. I think they're going to send a team up, even if it's 11 guys. They're going to go up and figure out how to play football. But what are we dealing with in this game? You like the 23.5-point spread with the severely depleted team?
Honestly, I think I have to take the spread with Ohio State. And one of the reasons why I say that is because, in order to get in, I think Ohio State is going to get in. But in order to help them and to help, the fans out there to say, hey, Ohio State should be in, it's the eye test. It comes down to the eye test. So I expect them to cover the spread, and I expect them to go out there, whoever they put on the field, to put up a big show and to cover that spread. So I really like Ohio State on the spread this week.
Just because I don't know what I'm going to get, and I'm not gonna wimp out and take Ohio State on the money line because that is out there. You can do it. Minus 3,500 though, so you're not making a lot of money on that. But I'm going to take Michigan State in the points here. Sparty showed up. They played Northwestern tough. Granted, Northwestern Ohio State, not exactly made of the same DNA, but this Mel Tucker team, they'll show up in spots where you don't expect them, and you're just asking to stay within 24 points, basically. I'm going to give Sparty a shot on this one just because I don't know what I'm getting at Ohio State, and if Justin Fields is one of those who are out, that's going to be a big deal. So I'm going to take Sparty with the points on this one because I think we're not going to know until about 10 minutes before kickoff who's missing the game for Ohio State. I think they're going to keep that under wraps best as possible. All right, let's go out to the Plains in the SEC. Texas A&M, 7-point favorite over Auburn, minus 260 on the money line, over under at 45.5. The Aggies they've been unbeaten since that 28-point loss to Alabama, I should say. But this is a good game to put their resume in front of people. Really, Auburn has struggled against good competition this year. I don't think anyone looks at Auburn as elite, but Auburn's no pushover either. So you thoroughly dominated LSU last week, even though it was ugly football game. But let's see what that tough A&M defense could do against Auburn. I think this is a game where A&M definitely has the potential to be upset. And I didn't love what I saw from their offense last week. So I'm going to go with A&M on the money line.
Yeah, I think, the Auburn team that showed up in the Iron Bowl, I think, that was definitely a horrible team and they didn't compete. I expect Auburn to come back and compete against Texas A&M. And I think all the other teams, they can play spoiler. And I think Auburn is going to try to play spoiler this week. So give me Auburn with the points.
Auburn at +7. So even after what you saw from Bo Nix in that offense in the Iron Bowl.
Yeah, but once again, that's Alabama. I've been saying Alabama's machine. They've been rolling all year long. I really didn't kind of expect Auburn to kind of compete, even though it's the Iron Bowl. But I do, think they kind of play a little bit prideful football this week, and I like to take them on the spread. So I expect Auburn to cover. Close game against Texas A&M.
Like it. A lot of teams could use that upset too. Oklahoma State goes to TCU. Western Carolina at North Carolina, Rice at Marshall, Toledo at Northern Illinois, Kansas at Texas Tech. And sticking in the noon hour here, we got Texas going to Kansas State. The Longhorns are 7-point favorites, minus 280 on the money line, over-unders at 51.5. This Kansas State team is really falling apart. It's hard to believe they even beat Oklahoma early in the season. Of course, most of these teams have had a toll taken on them throughout the year. We can't underestimate that. But the only reason I'm really pointing out this game has no real significance in the conference race anymore. We're hearing a lot more whispers about Tom Herman at Texas. And I know people are loving this Urban Meyer rumor. Is it possible? I have no idea. Maybe, I guess. But it just seems to me like Urban Meyer, I thought he was pretty heavily associated with USC last year around this time. So he's just going to be hotly associated with any name. Obviously, Urban Meyer, Texas, that's a dream scenario right there. But Tom Herman was this candidate. He was the hottest candidate in America a few years ago. You had Texas and LSU fighting over for him at Houston. Hasn't gone great at Texas, but it hasn't been as bad as it was during the Charlie Strong or the end of the Mac Brown era. They've definitely made some improvements. I'd say it's been like maybe what Harbaugh is doing at Michigan is like a poor man's version of what Herman's doing at Texas. So I think he's done better than what Harbaugh is doing at Michigan, to tell you the truth. And if I'm Texas, I'm sticking with the guy. I'm giving him another year. Obviously, if you can get Urban, go get him. But I don't know how much that's just media garbage versus reality. So if it's actual reality, sure, go ahead and get Urban Meyer if you got a chance. But I think this Longhorn team, I'm tying that back into this game here because I think this Longhorn team is going to be motivated. And you got Sam Ehlinger. He's going out. This is his last year. He doesn't care about Urban Meyer. He just probably wants to make a good name for his coach and his era and his time at Texas. And I think he'll want to finish strong. Texas normally struggles in Manhattan, but I think you're going to see a really focused Texas football team laid on the Wildcats on Saturday. I love this game. Texas -7.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I'm definitely going to take Texas -7. Just like you said, this is, Sam Ehlinger's last shot at it. And I think, he's actually matured as a quarterback on the field and off the field. And I know there's been a lot of teammates been opting out on that Texas team. And, he came out and he made a statement and he's a leader on that team. So I think Sam Ehlinger gets it and he's going to go out there and he's going to lay it all on the line for his teammates and the fans. So give me Texas to cover the spread.
Texas -7. I think that's one of my favorite picks of the week right there. Nebraska goes to Purdue at noon on the Big Ten Network. On FS1 at noon, Penn State is an 11-point favorite over Rutgers, -380 on the money line, over-unders at 54. And Rob, if you told me before the season that Penn State would be an 11-point favorite over Rutgers, I would say that's it. But since we've actually watched this season, I'm a little stunned. Double-digit favorites? I mean, I could see 7. I could see 7.5, even 11. This just screams of disrespect for Rutgers, who's coming off a nice win over Purdue. And obviously, talent-wise on the field, Penn State's got the edge, but Shiano's got the Scarlet Knights playing some ball, and I love Rutgers +11 in this game. I don't even have to think about it that hard.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. Once again, it seems like we're agreeing on all these picks, but just like you said, Penn State really has been playing great ball all year long. With the opt-outs that they've had on both sides of the ball, right, the injuries, and we all know that what they're dealing with. But I think this Rutgers team is actually moving in the right direction, and Greg Schiano is actually coaching them up. So give me Rutgers with the points in this one. It's a no-brainer for me.
Crazy, right?
Yeah, I don't understand this line, and that's probably one of those lines out there that's probably going to trip a lot of folks up. But I tell you what, if you're going to give me Rutgers with the point with Greg Schiano coaching and just the way that they've been playing football all year, I'm willing to take that.
I'm right there with you. All right, FIU goes to Charlotte at noon. Memphis at Tulane at noon, and the final noon game of the day, Arkansas at Missouri. That could be a solid watch right there. Definitely a coin flip game. The return of Barry Odom. All right, so the 2 p.m. game on ESPNU was supposed to be Liberty at Coastal Carolina, but this coming from Chris Vanini at The Athletic, multiple sources tell The Athletic that Coastal Carolina and BYU have been in talks about possibly playing this week if Liberty cannot play. It could happen. It's not happening at the moment. Liberty still needs to get the test results back. So Liberty's got COVID concerns, and BYU stepping in trying to get a high-profile opponent. And certainly traveling to number 18 Coastal Carolina, that'll raise some eyebrows in a last-minute matchup. Gotta love this story, though. But Liberty, I mean, obviously, best wishes to Liberty. Hope you're okay. But just seeing the last-minute games come together like this is absolutely wild. And we're going to be telling stories like this 20 years from now. Nobody's going to believe it. Liberty will make a determination tomorrow, according to Bruce Feldman, if they can play at Coastal Carolina. Liberty has had an uptick in cases starting on Sunday, and told Freeze has been without his defensive staff all week. Liberty only has one guy on that side of the ball that's not tied up with COVID issues. So I think that's pretty strongly indicating that Liberty has a good chance of not playing. I think if there weren't strong indications they couldn't play, I don't think BYU would even talk about it. But folks out in Utah are confirming the story too, that BYU is at least going to travel out there. So you might have Liberty and BYU travel to Conway, South Carolina to play Coastal Carolina. And only one of those teams will end up playing against the Chanticleers. Absolutely wild stuff. We have no pick on the game, obviously, because they don't even know who's playing yet, but just two opponents are going to show up and we'll see who plays.
Yeah, just like you said, I think this is awesome. And it goes to show you that, all the hashtags from the Trevor Lawrence to Justin Fields of the world that, we want to play, they're actually proving it. Liberty and Coastal Carolina, it seems like they're not going to be able to go, especially with Malik Willis tested positive. Their starting quarterback, who's just been playing tremendous ball all season long. But just like you said, if they can kind of get this BYU Coastal Carolina game going, I think that definitely boosts BYU stock, but it also boosts Coastal Carolina stock. So I think this is good for all programs involved. Not so much Liberty, but they are having a Cinderella year. But Coastal Carolina and BYU won't be a slouch game either. And BYU definitely needs to add a game so they can boost their schedule and they can kind of compete and try to make that playoff push.
Admittedly, though, BYU and Coastal Carolina would be a much more exciting matchup, right?
Oh, yes, definitely.
Yeah. Especially the nature of the last minute. If anything, do you know where game day is going this week? Have they obviously have announced it. I don't pay attention to that too much. Is game day? I know Coastal was pushing for it.
I think they actually set game day for the Coastal Carolina Liberty matchup. I don't know how that's going to play out.
That would be sweet if they were there for BYU. That would be so cool. That would be so cool.
I think that would be pretty cool. But seeing BYU play on that, that green, bluish green turf out there, I think that's definitely exciting. And that Coastal Carolina field is kind of similar to the Boise blue turf, but it's definitely
I think it's more watchable. The teal turf, it's more watchable than the blue turf, isn't it?
Yeah, it definitely is.
Yeah.
It's more pleasing on the eye. I tell you that.
The blue turf is tough on the eyes. It's very tough on TV. I again, best wishes to Liberty, but I really hope BYU gets a shot. You and I have been on the BYU give them a shot train on the playoff. But I'll tell you, number 14 in the rankings they debuted at last week. Not a lot of respect for the Cougars from the playoff committee. I think if you're outside that top 7, Cincinnati's probably the cutoff point, and then you get Georgia, Iowa State, Miami. I think BYU is definitely out of the playoff hunt, but what's nice is if they get to play Coastal Carolina and they demolish them, A, they got an argument to make, and B, they at least knock someone out of the way. That, like if they – I don't know what New Year's Six Bowl is taking the wild card team this year, but basically they would knock them out of the way to say, like, hey, we don't have to worry about Coastal taking our Sugar Bowl spot or something like that, whatever the extra bowl game is this year, right? So there's lots of reasons to go play a game. I would love to see if BYU just shows up and plays a pickup game. That's fantastic.
And especially if BYU kind of, blows their opponent out, kind of like they've been doing
Right.
all year long. I think that goes to show you the type of team that BYU has. So
Yeah.
I think you kind of have to put some respect on their name if that happens and they just show up and they blow out Coastal Carolina at home. So I think, that's a great showing. Hopefully it comes to fruition. But once again, don't count Liberty out. I know they're still clawing, trying to play that game as well.
I know Coastal's been a great story and they've had a very good team, and I've loved it. They've pulled some stuff after the games of their interviews. I love that team. I have a lot of fun with that team this year. But from what I've seen from Coastal, what I've seen from BYU, I think BYU, it, if the spread is under 10, I'm taking the Cougars in that game.
Yeah, I'm definitely taking the Cougars all day if that game was to actually, come to fruition where BYU is playing Coastal Carolina this weekend. I'm taking BYU all day.
Love it. That'd probably be one of the coolest stories in 2020 if that actually ends up happening. All right, Troy at South Alabama, 2:00 hour. Bowling Green at Akron, Eastern Michigan at Western Michigan, 2:30. Syracuse goes to Notre Dame. Notre Dame is a 33.5-point favorite. Over under is set at 52. 33.5. I got to think this might be a game where Notre Dame, they just got confirmation that they're not going to have to play a game next weekend. So they get a bye week before the ACC title game. They've qualified for the ACC title game. I forget who tweeted it, so I'm sorry if I'm not giving you credit, but I saw a funny tweet yesterday where it said, Brian Kelly has now been to more conference championships than Jim Harbaugh.
Yeah, that's definitely pretty amazing. With Notre Dame being an independent and the out of conference, just the tough schedule that it has, year in and year out. But that just goes to show you, this Michigan program under Harbaugh has not been, what it's supposed to be. It kind of really seemed like he oversold the program moving forward when he got hired. But it's definitely been tough sledding for Michigan under Harbaugh. But, Brian Kelly's got Notre Dame rolling right now. And I tell you what, I don't expect a letdown all the way until, the conference championship against Clemson. I don't think Notre Dame wins that conference championship game against Clemson, but I do think they roll this week against Syracuse. So give me Notre Dame with the points.
Notre Dame minus 33.5. I tell you what, I started this year calling Notre Dame frauds. I apologize to them. I think they're legit. I think no matter what, they belong in the college football playoff. Barring like a 72-0 loss to Clemson in the ACC title game. But I think the resume is already there. You got the win over Clemson. I think as long as they play respectable against Clemson, they're in the college football playoff no matter what. So this Syracuse game. So if that's the case, and your eyes are toward Clemson in the college football playoff, what's the goal of this game? Do you give a crap if you win by 33.5? If you're Brian Kelly, absolutely not. So I think you play the starters the first half, hope to get a 10+ point lead, and then you roll out the backups in the second half. And that's what I worry about. I think Notre Dame, I don't think they're going to give 100% effort in this game. I think they're going to do the what's needed, pull the lever to as far as it's needed to get the victory. And I think that's about what they're going to do. I'm thinking maybe somewhere in the neighborhood of 41 to 21 or something like that. I just think it's going to be a little sloppy at the end. So give me Syracuse plus 33.5. That's a lot of points to give. Louisiana Monroe goes to Arkansas State, 3 p.m. ESPN 3. The Florida Gators go to Knoxville, 3:30 p.m. on CBS. And Rob, there's a chance of snow in the evening hours up in Tennessee. I don't think the Florida Gators are used to seeing much snow.
Definitely not. But I tell you what, if it does, if the weather permits it and it does kind of snow, I don't think it's going to hold up this Gator offense at all. Welcome back, Kyle Pitts, who had a tremendous game last week. I think he goes off again, probably one of the best tight ends in the nation, if not the best. Just Kyle Trask, the way he's maneuvering in the pocket. This offense is clicking on all cylinders. And this is another game that the Florida defense kind of get their bearings back and play some decent ball. But you saw the Todd Grantham and Dan Mullen going at it on the sidelines last week. And I think that just kind of adds fuel to the fire with this defense, the staff, and the players on this defense side of the ball. So I think they get the job done. Give me Florida to cover with the spread.
So Florida is favored by 17.5. You like the Gators by 17.5, minus 850 on the money line. The over-unders at 62.5. Beyond the defensive struggles for Florida, Tennessee has been worse. Tennessee's been worse on offense than Florida's been on defense. Florida gives up some big plays. They've struggled against good offenses. This is not a good offense. Tennessee, I think they're going to come out. They're going to try to pound the ball. I think they can have a drive or two that looks like Kentucky in the beginning. But what Grantham and the defense has proven is the ability to adjust. And I think this Gators team, they're focused. They got Alabama in the SEC title game in a couple weeks here. I'm very skeptical that the LSU game on the schedule is going to get played. I'm skeptical about that next week because Alabama has a game with Arkansas that has not technically been scheduled on next week's date. I think the SEC is leaving some wiggle room there, so you can give bye weeks to both your SEC East and West champs, which if Florida wins on Saturday, they do clinch the SEC East. Why not preserve the SEC title game? It's meaningless if Florida were to play LSU. So I think Florida goes up. They're totally focused. It's Tennessee. It's always good to smack down Tennessee. Tennessee struggles on offense. The Florida defense, we get a little hope going into that Bama game. And I think the 17.5, I think that's an easy cover. I'm not worried about that. I'm not worried about that at all. So Gators 17.5. All right, West Virginia goes to number 9, Iowa State. Good win down in Austin by the Cyclones last week. Looking to lock in that Big 12 title spot this week here. 3:30 ESPN. The Mountaineers are 6.5-point dogs. Cyclones minus 240 on the money line, and the over-unders at 49 in this one. Cyclones, they play some lower scoring games, so I'm not loving the over-under. But I don't trust them with minus 6.5. This is a good team, but they like to play tight with everyone. So I'm just going to take Iowa State on the money line here.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. They do like to play, tight games. They got the big win against Oklahoma early in the year, and I thought that was going to propel them to kind of, just gut out, difficult wins, which they've been doing so far. But just like you said, I'm not that confident in taking them on the spread. So give me Iowa State on the money line.
Let me ask you your confidence level about Matt Campbell returning in 2021.
I think I'm very confident in Matt Campbell returning in 2021. I think he's really trying to build something with this Iowa State program, kind of similar to Tom Allen in Indiana. I don't see those guys jumping ship, at least for now. They're going to stick it out for a couple more years. So I'm very confident in Matt Campbell coming back.
So he's going to say no to Texas and or Michigan?
I mean,
I don't know, man.
If Michigan and Texas are Matt Campbell's dream jobs, then you can't say no. But ultimately different coaches have different dream jobs. So if that's not one of his dream jobs, and if he doesn't feel like that's not a good fit for him, then I don't think he takes the job right away. I actually think he stay at Iowa State and kind of, move on with that program and kind of build on what he's been building on already.
Tell you what, he's the type of guy that wouldn't surprise me to see him get an NFL job.
Yeah. And that's the thing. So if you kind of have that option to go to NFL route, do you, go to Texas or Michigan, or do you just go straight from, Iowa State
Jacksonville
to the NFL?
Jaguars, baby? I would take that in a heartbeat. I'd be pretty thrilled if the Jags hired Matt Campbell, actually. I'd be cool with that.
I think you'd be pretty cool with the Jacksonville Jaguars hiring any new coach right about now.
I'm okay with Doug Marrone and his bologna sandwiches. Doug Marrone got a bad beat in Jacksonville, but that's not what this is about right now. We're going to move on to Indiana, Wisconsin. Speaking of bad beats here, man, Hoosiers, you finally get a season where you're playing good, and Penix goes down with an ACL injury. Such a bummer. Extra bummer, too, when you consider that Indiana's already qualified for the Big Ten title game with their 6 games, but Ohio State is on the verge of perhaps not being able to play. We talked about that Michigan game being in limbo next week. Hey, if Indiana gets in, they're going to have to do it with their backup quarterback. So there's a chance, Rob, that Indiana and Northwestern, by the way, we said had their game canceled, but they've qualified too. But nobody else is going to qualify in the West ahead of Northwestern. So you can have Northwestern play against Illinois next week and lose. Indiana lose their next 2 games. And the Big Ten title games with the 2-loss and 3-loss, Indiana and Northwestern.
Yeah, I tell you what, tough beat for this Indiana team. Just like you said, with Michael Penix going down with the ACL injury, and I know we have Jeremy Coleman, a friend of the pod. It comes on, every now and then. But one conversation I had with the Indiana insider was, the Michael Penix and the injury bug. It always seems like he's nicked up or banged up, and
Mm-hmm.
that's the only thing that's been holding Michael Penix back. I think he's been a great player so far, and we've seen that this year. But that's one thing he really can't shake is the injury bug, and it sucks for him, and it sucks for that Indiana team. So hopefully Jake Tuttle can come in and keep this Indiana team afloat and continue on to kind of rack up the wins under Tom Allen. So I like Indiana this week on the money line. I'm not going to take them on the spread. I'm actually going to take them on the money line.
That's funny because they're 14-point underdogs. You sure you don't want them on the spread?
No, I don't want them on the spread.
You like them
I
to
think
win straight up on
I,
the money
I,
line.
I like them to win straight up on the money line.
Wow.
And
What is
Jack,
Jeremy
Jack,
putting in your juice, man? He's putting something in your drinks, dude.
he is. But I tell you what, Jack Tuttle was actually a quarterback, that Wisconsin actually went out to recruit. So they're going to be facing a quarterback that they try to recruit. And I think he's familiar with, the Wisconsin Badgers team and that program. And I think he actually comes out and he plays very well. So I like Indiana to win this week against a Wisconsin team that's, loaded on the defense side of the ball. But I think he gets the job done.
That's plus 400 on the money line. So if you believe that, man, you should throw some money on that one because you get some good money return on your investment. But I like the Badgers at minus 14 here. I think this Indiana team, that's a devastating blow to lose your quarterback at this point in the season. I have a lot that speaks to my respect for Penix. I think if Penix is playing, I think this might be a 3-point spread. I don't know much about Tuttle, in fairness. You seem to know a little more about Tuttle than I do. This Indiana team is certainly good, but don't kid yourself. Penix was he was the engine that made that offense go, and he was been a key player in their quick start this year. So I was super disappointed to hear the news on that. But I think this Wisconsin team, they're going to be surly. It's in Camp Randall. Minus 14, minus 600 on the money line. Over unders at 45. I'm telling you, I like the Badgers to cover in this one. I think this is going to be a beatdown on Saturday. All right, we'll stick in the Big Ten, but moving down to Illinois here. Iowa goes to Champaign as a 13.5-point favorite, minus 550 on the money line. Over unders at 51. The Hawkeyes have been an interesting team this year. I've watched them. I'm never overly impressed, but I guess that's just kind of watching Iowa football. It's never anything that's going to blow your mind, but just strong, steady, consistent football. I know Illinois has struggled at times this year, but they've also played well for a couple of games. I think this spread's too big here. I like the Illini to cover at 13.5. I think they got the offense to make things interesting, and we certainly saw Iowa as a double-digit favorite last week, not really come close to covering.
Yeah, I tell you what, just like you said, this Iowa team, you know what you're going to get. They're going to play defense. They're going to run the ball. They're not going to do nothing, crazy, ridiculous on the offense side of the ball. They're just going to, grind out the win. And one thing I do like Iowa to win, but more importantly, I think I'm going to go with the under in this one.
So you got the under at 51. All right. Let's move on here. Tulsa at Navy, 3:30 ESPN2. Number 24 Tulsa. They're setting up for a date with Cincinnati next week in the AAC title game. The Golden Hurricane are 12-point favorites over Navy, minus 460 on the money line. The over/under is at 48.5. I've seen this Tulsa team play a couple times this year. They play well, but their offense concerns me as a double-digit favorite. I've liked what I've seen from their defense more than what I've seen from their offense. But I also don't know what I'm going to get from Navy because Navy's been very up and down this year. Every time they seem to turn a corner, they take a step back. So I think Tulsa will win, but minus 460 on the money line is not that exciting to me. So I'm going to take the over in this one at 48.5.
Yeah, I think I'm right there with you. Just like you said, that money line is definitely, high in the juice. So I don't, necessarily feel confident taking Tulsa on the spread, but I do like the over in this one because I can see, some points being put up. But yeah, I think, Tulsa ultimately gets the win, but I'm going to go with the over in this one.
How are we liking Tulsa's chances against Cincinnati in the AAC title?
They have a shot, but I tell you what, the Cincinnati team is just playing really, really good ball. I think Cincinnati, is kind of in the same predicament that BYU is in. I know their schedule is a little bit difficult, but once again, they're on the outside looking in right now. And they're going to have to blow out teams. So I think I can see a Cincinnati blowout against Tulsa, which will be a good resume builder for them to kind of sneak into the playoff or, be mentioned. So I think Cincinnati gets the job done in that one.
I think Cincinnati's got an outside shot at the playoff. A lot of things need to go their way, like including Texas A&M needs to get upset. Maybe Ohio State needs their next 2 games canceled. There's a lot of things that need to happen for Cincinnati, but it's the playoff hopes they're slim, but they're alive. They're still there. All right, Boston College goes to Virginia at 3:30. Buffalo at Ohio. Let's see what Buffalo can what they can put up on the ground with Jared Patterson. Let's see what he can do. Vandy goes to Georgia at 4 p.m. SEC Network. Hearing that Sarah Fuller will kick again for Vanderbilt this week. Let's see if they actually allow her to attempt a extra point or field goal. And I say allow in the sense of not in the sense that the coaches won't trot her out there, in the sense that hopefully the Vandy offense can actually get into field goal range this time. Got to think it'll happen at least once. Got to think we'll see a little more action. And hopefully they actually let her kick off too. Like, because I think I saw she was posting clips of her from her soccer. I mean, we know goalies in soccer, they could boom the ball down the field. We know she's got a leg. She can kick the ball. I don't want to see the squib kick stuff again, though. Let her kick it off. I want to see it. I want to see that in action. Georgia's 36-point favorite here, over under at 54. I don't love this spread, but I'm gonna hold my nose and take the Bulldogs at minus 36. It just in the hopes that JT Daniels, they want to go out with a show, and in the last couple games here, and he gets hot against Vandy here, and they have a big day. So I'm gonna go Georgia at minus 36.
Yeah, once again, this Georgia team is actually still ranked in the top 10 on the college football playoff rankings with 2 losses. But I'm not confident in Georgia covering the spread, even with JT Daniels at the quarterback position. I am going to take the over. I think, it's going to be a high-scoring game. I think, Vanderbilt actually puts up a couple of touchdowns late in that game, and it goes over. But one thing that I would like to talk about is D'Wan Mathis. He actually entered his name in the transfer portal, and he might end up in Michigan State. I know Michigan State recruited him hard coming out of high school, and I know he was a commit for Michigan State, but he kind of flipped that commitment, and it really seems like he might end up in Michigan State out of the transfer portal. So once again, Kirby Smart and his quarterback. So let the quarterback carousel continue.
Kirby Smart and his quarterbacks. That's good intel there. I hadn't heard that with Mathis, so that'll be interesting. Get Mel Tucker, a 4-star quarterback in East Lansing there. So. And hopefully he develops into an awesome QB that we can continue to ridicule Georgia for as Florida Gator fans.
Yeah.
All right. Stanford goes to Washington, 4:00 on Fox. I'm not too interested in this game. Washington's still undefeated, but they're so low in the playoff rankings. Like, Washington's out. Seriously, if you're below number 7, we don't even have to talk about you for a playoff spot right now. So Washington, they're 11.5 point favorite, minus 430 on the money line. Over under is at 50.5. And I think I'll take Stanford to cover the 11.5 in this one, Rob. And real quickly, I want to get your pick before I dive into something completely not relevant to the game.
Yeah, I like Washington in this one. I'm actually going to take Washington with the spread in this one. I think Stanford is a tough team, just like you said. It's kind of like similar to Iowa. You know what they're going to do, play defense, kind of run the ball, and grind out the win. But I think Washington's been playing good ball the last couple of games, and they do have, more skilled players on the outside that, can make plays than Stanford. So I'm going to roll with Washington in this one.
So Stanford is located in Santa Clara County in California, right? So are the San Francisco 49ers, by the way. Santa Clara County announces that they're banning all contact sports, which obviously includes football. Well, that's a huge problem because Stanford and San Francisco still have games to play this season. But so essentially the county is banishing these two teams, forcing them across state lines to go play games. San Francisco is going to play their home games at the Arizona Cardinal Stadium. Stanford's going to go practice in Seattle later in the week here, and then they're going to play on Saturday, and then they're going to practice next week up in Oregon and then play there. And you're basically making the entire program, you're kicking the entire program out of your county. I'm all for smart thinking when it comes to COVID, and I understand that conceptually, like, football makes no sense during COVID, but they test these guys are probably some of the most tested, highly tested people in America right now. Like, they know what's going on. And apparently Stanford hasn't had a positive case since July was their last positive test for a player. I think that's what I heard. What do you think of Santa Clara County basically saying, not my problem, and making it someone else's? Like, are you really making the world a better place? Or are you just like sloughing your stuff off on someone else's plate?
Yeah, I'm going to go with the latter in that. It really seems like, they don't want to deal with it. It's kind of like, okay, well, you're not going to play here, but you can go play next door. So I don't understand it. I do understand it, but I don't understand it. But, if the games get played, ultimately that's what it comes down to. So hopefully all these games can get played. Stanford can actually, travel and remain, positive, case free with no positive tests. Same thing with the 49ers team. So if they can play these games and they can just remain free and stay healthy, I'm all for it. But just like you said, it really seems like, we have a problem in our backyard, but, go to the neighbor's backyard.
Or make it their problem.
Yeah, make it their problem.
Yeah, so not only they have to deal with their one team, now they're dealing with you too. Like, I it's so selfish to me. And like Santa Clara County, like, that's a ridiculous decision. I think that's totally, you're not handling your responsibility. You have the responsibility toward these two programs, or really Stanford and the 49ers. Live up to it. Like, it's just a little disgusting to me. I don't know, but it's where located outside of San Francisco. That's what it's all. It's kind of political at this point. So, and in all reality, it's not. It's not really smart to play football during a pandemic. So I do understand that side of it. I'm not like football guy who doesn't have a clue. I get it on some level, but the agreements were made to play. So back it up and get it done. Like, you're almost at the finish line too. That's what boggles my mind with this decision, but I could go on about this, but we won't do that. Georgia Tech at NC State, 4:00, ACC network. San Jose State at Hawaii, 4 p.m. Ball State at Central Michigan, 5:30 p.m. ESPNU. FAU at Georgia Southern, 6 p.m. ESPN Plus. Out of the 7 o'clock hour, Oregon goes to Cal. Colorado goes to Arizona. Colorado State goes to San Diego State. And Clemson goes to Virginia Tech at 7:30 on ABC. The Tigers are 22-point favorites, minus 1,600 on the money line. Over under here is at 67. Virginia Tech has been a mystery team to me this year. They look great one week. They look terrible another week. I don't think it matters this week. I think Clemson is angry, and I think they want to make a point, and they want to let Notre Dame, we're coming for you. And they put up 31. They went 31-0 against Pitt in the first half, and then they closed it out strong too. I think they're going to send the same message here on Saturday night. Clemson minus 22. Lock it in. I like it.
Yeah, that's probably going to be the lock of the week for me. I think, normally you kind of see Clemson with a 4-touchdown spread margin, but, it's a little bit over 3 touchdowns. So I'm willing to roll the dice on Clemson with the spread in this week. And just like you said, Clemson just have too many pieces. And Trevor Lawrence, this is probably, his last go around, just like we talked about Sam Ehlinger out in Texas. So I think he comes out and he plays with a lot of enthusiasm. He throws the ball around and he gets the job done. And they cover the spread with ease. So give me Clemson with the spread.
Yeah, last practice before Notre Dame, boys. Get it in. Dabo got out of that trip to Florida State. Good for him. So Florida State fans can throw that back in his face. South Carolina goes to Kentucky, 7:30 SEC network. Alabama, LSU, 8 p.m. CBS. The Tide are 29.5-point favorites. Over-under is at 67.5. This is just going to be a thrashing. It's going to be a mauling. LSU, they've been playing better defense. Their defense looked good at times against Texas A&M last week, but that offense is something. It's something else. I was expecting more from TJ Finley last week, but he did not look impressive at all. Max Johnson, Brad Johnson, Tampa Bay Bucks quarterback. That's his son. He didn't look a whole lot better. And granted, these guys are young. They're still fitting in. A lot of turnover at LSU this year. This is kind of a lost year anyway, which I'm pretty sure most LSU fans would sell their souls for the season they had last year, and they would pay the price would be this to have this type of season after. I'm sure most LSU fans are still basking in the glory of Joe Burrow winning a title in 2019 and have no problem suffering through this season. But Alabama's going to put a hurting on them, something big on Saturday night. The 29.5 points, bump it up to 40 for me. I got Alabama covering, no problem.
Wow. I'm actually going opposite with you today on that one, Nick. I kind of been agreeing with you with a lot of the picks that we've been talking about so far, but this is so disrespectful in so many different ways. You have LSU who's coming off a national championship, and you're telling me they're, a 29-point underdog, pretty much a 30-point underdog to Alabama. I know Alabama's a machine and they're rolling, but I tell you what, I think Ed Orgeron gets these guys up and they come out and they play for pride. And I think that's the same narrative that you're seeing with a lot of these teams, whether it's on the collegiate level or the NFL level. I know Matt Nagy came out earlier in the week and said, hey, my guys have to play with some pride. And I think that's what LSU is going to come out, and Ed Orgeron is going to get those guys to come out and play with some pride. And I think, Alabama don't cover. So give me LSU with the points. I take all of those points with LSU.
We're going to play for some pride. We're only losing by 28, you hear? 28, not 29.5, 28.
Go Tigers.
Did I get the pep talk down?
You got it down, but you got to hit a go Tigers with that one, Nick.
Go Tigers. Go Tigers is for winners. Go out and prove me right.
There you go.
Cover that spread, damn it.
And I tell you what, I do think LSU actually comes out with a little bit of fire. This Alabama LSU matchup has always been like, a high profile matchup year in and year out. And it's definitely not going to be a high profile matchup this season. But I tell you what, I think LSU and that offense and the defense go out, play with some pride, and they cover the spread. So give me LSU with the points in this one.
Not a high profile matchup, huh? Who's the disrespectful one now? Tell that to Gary Danielson. They'll be showing up. 8 p.m.
Oh, yeah, they will.
8 p.m. CBS, man. So you get to watch Florida on some snow football. And now that we disagreed on that one, this game just got a whole lot more interesting to me. We might need some side action on that, Rob. What do you think? You want to throw some side action on that?
We can throw a little side action on that.
All right.
And I tell
That's
you what,
good.
the reason why we're talking about LSU being practically a 30-point underdog in Death Valley. I know it's different.
It's not Texas A&M. They don't have 200,000 fans in the stands for this one.
Yeah, that was pretty horrible. I know they're like the 12th man and everything like that.
They're holding hands and swaying and high fiving.
Yeah, no social distancing whatsoever. But I tell you what, I really think this LSU team comes out, play with some heart. I know they lost Terrence Marshall. He opted out for the season.
There's another one.
I really thought, this LSU team was doomed as soon as Jamar Chase opted out, before the season. One of the best players in the nation. He said, hit the hell with it. I'm actually going to, prepare for the draft early and don't even want to play. So I thought that was a telltale sign of how this LSU season was going to shape out.
Honestly, if he played this year, his stock probably would have gone down, right?
Yeah, but
so not a bad decision.
It's definitely not a bad decision, but I'm pretty sure his stock couldn't go up any further than what it would be.
Cashed out high.
Yeah, especially with Justin Fields and Trevor Lawrence right there for the 1 and 2, and then you still got Penei Sewell out in Oregon at the offensive lineman, and then Trey Lance might speak up there. So I think Jamar Chase did the right thing about opting out early and not playing with LSU this season, and just kind of preparing for the draft and getting his mind and body right for the next level. So I tip my hats off to Jamar Chase, definitely one of the best receivers in the nation, and I think it's going to translate well on the next level.
All right, Miami picks up a game with Duke, 8 p.m. Baylor at Oklahoma, 8 p.m. on Fox. At 9 p.m., Houston at SMU. Fresno State goes to Nevada at 10:30. 10:30 CBS Network. Wyoming goes to New Mexico. Oregon State at Utah at 10:30. If you want to stay up late and watch the game, those Oregon State Beavers were a lot of fun to watch last Friday night. But I'll tell you what, I was impressed. And granted, I think Arizona might be terrible. But UCLA versus Arizona that was my late night fall asleep game, and I ended up staying up and watching the whole thing because I didn't know UCLA actually they really showed me something. So they go to Arizona State here. Arizona State has played a total of one game this season. They've had the rest of their games canceled. 10:30 p.m. Who would have figured that Arizona State, the party school that it is, would have trouble with COVID? I'm totally shocked about that. Arizona State's got a great roster, a good team. They played USC tough, but I like this UCLA team, and I think they might have a little more rhythm to them. Arizona State's coming off of basically a month bye. This is basically another season opener for them. Give me UCLA at +3 here. Arizona State -155 on the money line. Over unders at 55. Give me UCLA to cover at +3.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. This UCLA team has kind of been playing some pretty good ball under Chip Kelly. I know we kind of got on him last season, but it really seems like he's kind of getting that program going in the right direction. I know they have some, stuff going out there from a financial standpoint, with that institution. But I tell you what, on the field, it's really looking promising, and it could get better. Game after game, Chip Kelly, once he gets that offense set in, you saw what he did out in Oregon. It really seems like he can do that in UCLA if he gets the right players in that system.
All right. Last game in college football that we have to mention. We're not going to pick it, but on Sunday, December 6th, Washington State goes to USC, 7:30 FS1. So you'll have college football through Sunday night this week. Enjoy your college football. We'll cut over to the pro section right after this. All right. We're recording this on Wednesday night. We just saw the Pittsburgh Steelers beat up on the Baltimore Ravens to wrap up Week 12. Week 12, wrap it up on a Wednesday afternoon. Just your typical NFL, typical times in the NFL. Rob, I didn't see much from either team in this game. And granted, the Ravens were down some players, but it just was kind of an ugly football game today.
Yeah, I just like you said, I didn't get it. Once again, this game kicked off at 3:30, 3:40-ish.
Yeah.
So I was still at work when this was going on, so I didn't get a chance to check out much. But just like you said, this is from what I saw, it really wasn't a good game. Probably worse than those Thursday night games that we complain about every year.
Yeah, I tuned in more for the second half. I was still working there in the first half, but just had it on in the background. Didn't pay much attention, but it's there wasn't much to pay attention to. I'm telling you, did not look great. Did not look great. All right, so let's dive into this week. That wraps us up. But I'll tell you what was devastating for that game for Baltimore is you're now 2 games behind Cleveland. So Cleveland, that's great for your wild card hopes. You're looking real good for a wild card spot after last week. You are now in the lead for the wild card in the AFC. So congratulations to the Cleveland Browns. Things are panning out the way we've been predicting on it since about week 3 of this season. So good job, Cleveland. Keep winning the ones you're supposed to win. All right, this week, Tampa Bay finally has a bye week. Carolina has a bye week. Pretty intense that both of these teams made it this far without having to use that bye week, but good for them. They finally get a break. No Thursday night game this week. Sunday, we cut to 1:00. New Orleans goes to Atlanta. The Taysom Hill experiment is still in full effect. The Saints are 3-point favorites, -150 on the money line. Over under here is at 46. Rob, I've been okay with Atlanta the last few weeks. The New Orleans game was actually kind of disappointing considering how Atlanta's been playing. I don't think the Taysom Hill thing. There's a couple games on tape now. Atlanta has seen him in person. I think Raheem Morse is going to come out with some adjustments in this one. I think Atlanta scores a little more than they did last time too. And if you give me the Falcons with the points here, I'll take it. Atlanta +3.
Yeah, this line is kind of weird if you ask me. And I know Atlanta's playing home, but once again, the Saints has just been rolling. Even with the transition from Taysom Hill to quarterback with Drew Brees getting injured, But I tell you this, I definitely like Atlanta after Raheem Morris took the interim head coaching job. It seemed like they've been playing with a little bit more pride and be going out there and putting it on the line. But I'm not gonna go too far with Atlanta. I think I'm just gonna take the safe bet and go with the over on this one.
Go with the over in this one. All right. And the over is sitting at 46. If you're Arthur Blank, has Raheem Morris done enough to keep the job? Granted, there's a full month to finish, but based on what you've seen so far, projecting it outward, let's say they finish decently strong. I know they got the Bucks twice. They got a couple tough games, but based on what you've seen so far, does he at least have a better chance to keep that job than he did the day you named him interim?
Yes, and the reason why I say that is because just the difference of play since he got named the interim head coach until now. They've been playing better. But I tell you what, this Falcons team, they were right there in the thick of things week in and week out. They just kind of blew a couple leads and they kind of pissed a couple games away. So this Falcons team could really be in playoff contention right now. I'm not saying that they're a complete team because they are lacking a lot of players on the defense side of the ball, but we know what they can do on the offense side of the ball with Matt Ryan, Calvin Ridley, and Julio Jones. So they're never out of a game because they can put up points. But I would definitely like to see a bigger sample size. So I would like to see Raheem Morris kind of play this season out and see what he does in the next couple weeks.
Well, Falcons are 4-7, but we did calculate last week that they should be 7. They could be 7-4 if you don't blow those games in the fourth quarter. You could easily have a inverse record here. So Atlanta, I think they're tougher. They're tougher than their 4-7 record indicates, but I like that play with the over too. That might be a good one. Detroit at Chicago, 1 p.m. on Fox. The Bears are 3-point favorites, minus 160 on the money line, and the over is at over-under set at 44. This Lions team had a win in their grasp in week 1, but Swift dropped the ball in the end zone. We talked about that at length that week, and Chicago ends up completing a miracle comeback with Mitch Trubisky. Trubisky's back in the lineup last week, and he looked like Mitch Trubisky, didn't he?
Yeah, I think Mitch Trubisky is going to continue to look like Mitch Trubisky as long as he's in the lineup. And as long as he's in the lineup, I can't take a Chicago Bears team, even though that defense is kind of stout. But that defense haven't been living up to the bill the last couple of weeks. And I really like, Detroit. They're a gritty team. So it's a conference game. So give me Detroit on the money line in this one.
So you like, even with Darrell Bevell being named the interim, you like they put Danny Shelton and Desmond Trufant on IR this week, by the way. So the Matt Patricia era is over. You get slaughtered by Houston on Thanksgiving, 20-0 to the Panthers last the week before. You still like Detroit? Are you still like Chicago?
Detroit. No, I'm going with Detroit, and the reason why is
Detroit on the money line.
Mitch Trubisky is on the field, so give me Detroit on the money line in this one.
I'm going to stay with the safe pick and go with the Bears on the money line because even though Mitch is not going to be the cause where I think they'll find a way to win in this game. So we'll go head up on that one. I'll take the Bears on the money line. Cleveland, and not because I think they're good. I just think Detroit might be a little worse. Cleveland goes to Tennessee. Tennessee's finally got their mojo back. It seems like they're fighting teams at midfield. They're playing the Colts. They slaughtered the Colts last week. They played some good football. I think this Titans team is not a team you want to see heading into the playoffs. And the Cleveland Browns, we're high on Cleveland. This is a pro Cleveland Browns podcast, but this ain't your week. You didn't look great in Jacksonville last week. You got the job done. Just asking you to get the job done to get to the playoffs. I don't like this matchup at all for Cleveland. I'm surprised the spread's not higher. Tennessee -6, -270 on the money line. The over-under's at 54. I think this is an easy Titans cover here. I'm going to go Tennessee -6.
Yeah, Tennessee has definitely been on a roll. But I tell you what, one thing that I can see happen in this game, this is probably going to be a battle of the running backs. And I'm definitely going to lean towards the under on this one. Derrick Henry versus Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt. I can see both teams kind of running the ball and kind of eating up the clock and keeping the time of possession. So I'm definitely going to go with the under in this one.
Some old school football, under 54. Let's go down to Miami, the Cincinnati Bengals, fresh off of losing Joe Burrow. And they hung around against the Giants last week. Give them credit. Daniel Jones goes out. That's not good. But the Bengals, they didn't look like pathetic awful. It was just they weren't playing a great team though, so nothing to get too excited about, but nothing to get too down about either. I think if you're Cincinnati, you just got to grind out the rest of the season here. It's only a few games left, so hope that Burrow gets back as soon as possible. All right. Miami's an 11.5-point favorite, minus 620 on the money line. The over-under is at 42.5. Rob, give the folks an update on Tua.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to be back. I haven't heard reports. I know he's Brian Flores said, he's still the starter. But once again, I think, Ryan Fitzpatrick's been playing really well, into interim since he came back. It really seems like Ryan Fitzpatrick, every time he sits the bench for a couple games and come back, it seems like he's a new and improved quarterback. So I think Miami rolls in this one big. And just like you said, speedy recovery for Joe Burrow. He was having an amazing season, but I think Miami rolls in this one, and give me Miami with the points.
You like them to cover. Miami minus 11.5. I'm going to go a lot more conservative, and it's a lot of juice. I know you don't like this pick, but I'm going to go Miami on the money line. Keep it simple. I think they're a team that plays close with teams, and Cincinnati can be pesky at times. So I'm going to just stick with Miami on the money line. The next game is the game of the year, in my opinion, probably your opinion too. The Jacksonville Jaguars traveled north to face the Minnesota Vikings. 1 p.m. on CBS. The Jags are a 10-point favorite somehow. Minnesota minus 500 on the money line, and the over-unders at 52.5. I'll tell you, Rob, there might not be a more disappointing team in football than the Minnesota Vikings this year. Outside of Dalvin Cook, there's not much cooking up there in the Twin Cities. And your Minnesota Vikings, it's pretty pathetic that they're a 10-point favorite here. I think this is easy. I'm going to take Jacksonville on the money line. As a matter of fact, we're going to take Jacksonville on the money line, and we also fleeced you on the Yannick Ngakoue trade while we're at it.
Definitely fleeced the Vikings on the Ngakoue trade. I give you that one, but just like you said, this line is definitely a little bit fishy. Minnesota Vikings kind of 10.5-point favorite. I know they're playing at home, but once again, we might be coming in the game with a banged up Dalvin Cook. I know we get Adam Thielen back, and I say we because I'm a Minnesota Vikings fan. I'm just putting that out there to our audience. But
I'm a Jaguars fan.
and you're a Jaguars fan. But yeah, on this one, this is definitely a tricky pick for me. And I can see this one actually going under. So I'm going to take the under on this one.
Under 52.5. I wouldn't be confident against the Jaguars if I were you too. And by the way, I'm going to totally chicken out here and go Jaguars plus 10. That's my actual pick. I knew I was just trying to talk a little trash and stir you up a little bit.
I knew you was gonna chicken out on that one because I know you really deep down inside you want the Jaguars to lose.
I do. I want that draft pick. So this kid, I'll still talk. We can still talk trash about this game, but I'd rather have the draft pick. So I'll take the loss. I'll take the loss on Sunday. No problem. But
and I'll tell you what, the way the Vikings has kind of been playing lately, I would love a earlier draft pick. And if you ask me, I tell you that.
So we're both. So you're rooting for the Jaguars, and I'm rooting for the Vikings. Then.
Yeah.
All right, you're going down. You're going down, man. That's good. Good. Serious rivalry here. Jaguars, Vikings. All right. Las Vegas, the Raiders go to the Jets. Can the Jets get their first win? Las Vegas looked terrible last week. They're 8-point favorites still, though. Minus 380 on money line. Over unders at 47. What in the hell happened with that Vegas offense last week?
Yeah, I have no clue. I tell you what, I think that's the thing that everyone, the sports pundits talk about when it comes to Derek Carr. He has those games where he goes out there and it looks like he's a more than capable quarterback and he's a franchise quarterback. And then he goes out and he has those games where he falls flat on his face. And that's what, John Gruden and the personnel has to work out there in Vegas to say, hey, is Derek Carr our guy moving forward? I really think he is. I love Derek Carr as a quarterback. But at the end of the day, it really seems like this Vegas team is kind of, going downhill. But the Jets don't get a win this week. I think Vegas bounces back and they cover this one with ease.
Yeah, I'm gonna say I'm with you on that because I think the Raiders, they desperately need this one, and their wake up call was last week. I think they're going to come back. They're going to be focused in this one, and they're not going to screw around, because if you lose this game, if you're Vegas, kiss your playoff hopes goodbye. It's done. Like, you're right now, the Raiders are hanging on. They're still technically in control. They're 6-5. They got a tough schedule here down the stretch, though, if I'm not mistaken. I know the Chiefs they're done playing Kansas City here, but I'm pulling up their schedule right now. You got the Colts, the Chargers, the Dolphins, and the Broncos. And the Colts and the Dolphins are going to have a lot to say for those wild card spots. Chargers are no pushover. That Broncos game looks like a probable win. So if you can lock in the Jets and the Broncos, you're bumping your record to 8-5 right there. And then really you're talking about needing to win 2 of 3 against the Chargers, Colts, and Dolphins. Particularly those head-to-head wins against the Colts and Dolphins would go a long way. But you don't have much room for error. If you lose this game, if you're Vegas, you got to win out, essentially. If you win this game, you still might be able to lose another one and make the playoffs with no problem. So, big game here for Vegas. I think they get it done. They cover the 8 points. All right. Houston hosts Indianapolis. The Colts are 3-point favorites, coming off a disappointing loss to the Titans. But to tell you the truth, I was a little shocked they even beat the Titans the first time. I haven't been a big believer in this Colts team. They're having a nice year at 7-4, second place in the AFC South, and very much in the playoff race right now. Important for them to get this win. I think the Texans have been playing some good football since the schedule loosened up a little bit. Deshaun Watson seems like he's a little freer. He's kind of doing his thing a little more. Rob, do you think the Texans? So the Colts come in minus 3-point favorites, minus 190 on the money line, and over unders at 51. Do you think the Texans come in with a little more confidence in this game?
Yeah, Nick, I tell you what, when it comes to this Houston Texans team, I don't think they lack for confidence anytime you have Deshaun Watson at the quarterback position. But, one thing that's going to hurt him is he's not going to have his number one weapon in Will Fuller. So, that confidence might be lacking a little bit. But I think this Colts defense gets back on track. And I think Colts, come out with the win. So I'm not going to take Colts to cover, but I'm going to take them on the money line. So give me Colts on the money line in this one.
Colts on the money line. All right, Indy money line. I like Houston this week. They've been playing some competitive football. I think they've been giving some teams problems. The over-under is a little bit questionable at 51 to me. I don't like them necessarily on the money line, but if you're giving me Houston in a field goal, I'll take that all day. So Texans at +3. You got the Colts on the money line. Next up, we got the Rams going to Arizona at 4:05 on Fox. I'll tell you, just when you're ready to believe in the Rams, they let you down. And that's why I sold my Rams stock early in the season. And I was starting to regret it a little bit. I didn't admit it out loud, but between you and me here, I was starting to regret it. But now I don't. I have no regrets about it. I did the right thing selling this. The Rams, Vegas is going right back to them. Still a 3-point favorite over the Arizona Cardinals. Minus 150 on the money line. Over under is at 48.5. And granted, the Cardinals had a disappointing loss at New England last week. And so Vegas is probably a little down on them. But this game is vital for Arizona. They are sitting at 6-5, sitting a game behind LA, 2 games behind Seattle now. LA's at 7-4 in second place in the NFC West. Critical game for both teams. Both teams will be highly motivated, no doubt. But I think this is the Cardinals' playoff game. This is the playoffs for the Cardinals. This is do or die. And they've been playing well, particularly at home all year. I like Arizona in this one. Give me the Cards at +3.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. The Rams are coming off a horrible loss to the San Francisco 49ers, who, is a great team in my opinion. But just like we talked about earlier, they were just, so many players down with injuries and everything for that matter. But one of those players that they did get back last week was Deebo Samuel, and he just kind of ran rampant over that, Rams defense. Yeah. And I tell you what, if they don't buckle their chin straps and get it together, Kyler Murray and DeAndre Hopkins is going to do the same thing this week. So with that being said, give me Arizona with the points.
Arizona +3. All right, the Giants go out to Seattle. 10-point underdogs here. Seahawks at -10, minus 560 on the money line. Over unders at 46.5. Rob, you got any report on Daniel Jones?
Yeah, I know it's a lot of reports out there saying that he's questionable, but I'm seeing some reports that he can actually miss up to a couple weeks. It seemed like he came down with a hamstring injury. And if the last couple of weeks, one thing that's really been working well for Daniel Jones is the RPO game. So if he can't run the ball like he wants to run the ball with a banged up hamstring, I don't see the Giants covering this. But I don't see Daniel Jones playing in this one. So give me Seattle all the way with the points.
Yeah, hamstrings are very easy to re-aggravate if you've never had a hamstring injury. They suck because you could just do it over and over again. So just when you think you're good, you take that one step and it, boom, pops again. Get another pull. So that's going to be a couple weeks for him to get back to normal. If the Giants are smart, they probably would lay off playing him in this game because even if he did play, not a great shot you're winning anyway. So make sure, let him rest up this week, get back for next game. Like, yeah, Colt McCoy in there. I know you're in the NFC East and you got to keep pace with that 4-7 record, but I think you roll the dice. You put Colt McCoy out there. If that happens, I'm with you. I like Seattle to cover this one, -10. All right, Philly goes to Green Bay. We saw the Eagles absolutely break bettors' hearts and get a 2-point conversion off a Hail Mary after Hail Mary to finish the game against Seattle on Monday Night Football. What's the logic of even going for 2 in that situation, Rob?
I have no clue.
That was the killer part.
The only logic I have is just like you said, to break the bettor's heart. But
that's it.
But I tell you what, Nick, one thing we just talked about the Giants and sitting Daniel Jones and not playing him and risking, further injury. And another reason why I say you sit him this week is because you look at your division rivals. The Eagles have the Green Bay Packers and Washington have the Steelers. So I tell you what, those are some tough games for your division rivals, and I think they're going to lose those games as well. So that's another reason why you want to sit Daniel Jones this week.
Good point. Green Bay is an 8.5-point favorite over the Eagles, -420 on the money line. Over under is at 47. I'm only a little nervous about taking the Packers to cover because it seems like they kind of take their foot off the gas when they're playing a weaker opponent. So I'm just going to take Green Bay on the money line in this game.
Yeah, I'm actually going to take Green Bay to cover. I really think this Eagles team is just, it's horrible right now on both sides of the ball. I really like the fight that the Eagles put up this past Monday with the Seattle Seahawks, especially the Darius Slay DK Metcalf battle that we got to watch. Even though DK Metcalf got the best of that one, but yeah, I think the Eagles actually came out and they showed some pride. But once again, they're playing Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams. It's just going to be tough sledding, guarding Devontae Adams, and especially with Allen Lazard coming back. Aaron Rodgers is. I think Aaron Rodgers is playing with a chip on his shoulder this year, and he's actually trying to get that MVP award. So this will be a great game for him to throw like 4 or 5 touchdowns to kind of, get back in that conversation.
Yeah, definitely a good shot to do that. The Patriots go out west to LA to face the Chargers. And I tell you what, if you didn't look at the records, you'd almost think with all the positive chatter around Justin Herbert, you'd almost think the Chargers were having a better year. But they're sitting at 3-9. The Patriots can get to 500 if they win this game. Is that unbelievable? After the start they've had, 500, they can get there. So I guess we technically could talk about them if they win out as a wild card team, technically, but not likely. But they're not fully dead yet. So the Pats are 1-point favorites, -150 on the money line. Over unders at 47, and I'll take New England in this one. I'm showing a little faith in Belichick and the boys. I'm thinking they can get it done against the Chargers team that really finds more ways to lose than they do to win.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I think the Patriots win this one outright. So I'm taking Patriots on the money line. And I know Cam Newton's been getting, bashed up and, talked about in the media in regards to his statistical play on the field. But, Cam Newton said, hey, a win is a win. Doesn't matter. I don't play for stats. I play to win the game. And that's what the Patriots been doing. They got a tough, gutsy win against the Cardinals. So I think they actually win this one outright. I know Justin Herbert is playing some great ball, but I like Bill Belichick, and I don't expect a rookie quarterback to beat a Belichick team, even though it's a lot of players out on that defense side of the ball for the Patriots.
Sunday Night Football, Kansas City hosts Denver. The Chiefs are 14-point favorites, -1100 on the money line. The over-unders at 51. Most years you expect a team like Kansas City, maybe they fall asleep at the switch here. Maybe that Denver gets their quarterback back. Maybe they play them a little tough. This Chiefs team's awesome. watching them play, even last week, Tampa Bay adjusted to them in the second half, and I think Tampa's a good team. They gave the Chiefs trouble. I think the Chiefs covering this one with no problem at 14 against the Broncos.
Yeah, and I'm right there with you. I think this, how we talk about Alabama being a machine, I think this Kansas City team is a machine in the NFL. With Patrick Mahomes and Tyreek Hill, that duo right there is just amazing right there. If you're a fantasy guy, you just love Tyreek Hill playing for the Chiefs with Patrick Mahomes at the quarterback position. But just like you said, I think this Broncos team, they get their quarterbacks back. I know they had the ordeal this past week with, the 4 quarterbacks not playing in that quarterback room. But even with, Drew Lock or whoever they roll out there at the quarterback position, it won't be enough against the Kansas City Chiefs. So I'm going to take KC with the spread in this one.
So the Steelers just got done playing here on Wednesday afternoon. They're going to play again on Monday night against the Washington football team, 5 p.m. And there's no spread out for this game yet, so we're not going to pick it. But big game for both teams. Both teams are first place teams. Washington, not liking the odds here. I think Pittsburgh. You think they catch Pittsburgh napping after a short week or no?
No,
we're not officially picking it. This is just the thoughts on the game.
Yeah, I don't think they catch Pittsburgh napping. I think, they had a wake-up call, today against the Baltimore Ravens. The Baltimore Ravens almost caught them napping. So I think, this particular game today is going to wake them up for, next Monday game. So I don't think Washington get them napping in that regards as for getting a win.
So in the regular scheduled time slot for Monday Night Football, the Bills go out to San Francisco. Buffalo's a 1-point favorite, minus 125 on the money line. Over unders at 48. Hey, the Niners, they keep surprising us here and there. I've been writing them off for a while, and they keep rearing their heads up. They're getting some of their players back. I read today George Kittle's trying to make it back too for this season. I mean, good for them. That's a good locker room if those guys are fighting this hard in a down year. This 49ers team, their fight is really winning me over. I really like what they're about, but I still think this Buffalo team is better. I'm going to take Buffalo to cover the 1 point in this game.
Yeah, and Buffalo is one of the teams that we've been talking about, in the last couple of weeks, what tier they're in. And it really seems like, they're moving up week in and week out to that, top tier. So I'm going to go with Buffalo with the spread in this one. I think they cover. Josh Allen is kind of getting back to the Josh Allen that we've seen earlier in the year. And they're running the ball. How about that? Go figure. They're running the ball with their running back. So that's always a plus for the Buffalo Bills. And, this defense is, getting better. Tre'Davious White is back. It seems like he's kind of locking up receivers on the outside. So I like this Buffalo team moving forward. So, but in this particular matchup, give me Buffalo with the spread, Nick.
Dallas goes to Baltimore at 8:00 on Tuesday night. This game was obviously delayed thanks to the issues in the Ravens facility. This is a critical game for Baltimore. Baltimore really doesn't have much room for error. So I like the Ravens in this one, but it's going to be a game that the Cowboys are going to think they have a shot in, I think.
Yeah, I think the Cowboys definitely going to think they have a shot in it, but I'm just, waiting to see, if Lamar Jackson comes back, Dobbins and Ingram, they should be back by then. They should clear, quarantine protocol by then. But if not, it's a toss-up game for me. If you think about it, I mean, Andy Dalton, I know he hasn't had time to kind of really work with, the offense because of, the concussion that he suffered, and he actually had to enter the COVID protocol as well. But this is a game that the Cowboys think that he could win. But if Ravens is fully healthy, it's no way that the Cowboys is winning this game. But I know it's no line out there yet for it, but I'm definitely going to go with the Ravens in this one, no matter what the line, if you ask me.
Yeah, it's not like Dallas isn't missing some starters too. So
yeah,
definitely an issue there. But all right, that wraps up our NFL side of our podcast here. We're going to read out an ad from our sponsor, Coach Paint, right after this. American Football Stories is brought to you by Coach Paint. Coach Paint is a great tool that allows us to add graphics to player highlight clips similar to the graphics you see on TV. CoachPaint offers the ability to clearly tell a straight video while increasing retention of information in a shorter amount of time. Up your game with CoachPaint today.
Thank you for listening to American Football Stories podcast. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel, American Football Stories. We are working to grow our network on YouTube and we'd love to have you subscribe. You can find us also on Apple Podcasts, on Twitter at American FB Story, and on our website, AmericanFootballStories.com. I am Robert Parker. My co-host is Nick Newsom. This has been another episode of American Football Stories.